ever notice how your brain gets loud the second things go quiet? Like, you lie down, no distractions, no notifications, and suddenly your mind is like, oh, hey, remember that embarrassing thing from 2009? Or, what are we doing with our life? Or, by the way, we should panic. Just in general. Most people think mindfulness is supposed to stop that. Like, the goal is silence, peace, a perfectly still mind. But that's not really it.
Pop culture buzz and games we love, voice actor insights, there's so much more. SDAYCRAZY, stay crazy, that sounds right. Stay crazy, no more fears, reach for the stars. Creative, reassured, affirm, but even jealous. Stay crazy, mental health, we advocate. Breaking stigma is never too late. From deep depth to news, we bring the fun. Stay crazy, everyone. Through the highs and lows, we'll stand together hand in hand. SDAYCRAZY, stay crazy, that's alright. Stay crazy, no more fears, reach for the stars. Creative, reassured, affirm, but even jealous. Stay crazy.
Sul. I don't know how you found your way here, but I'm really glad you did. This is Psypris Asylum, Embrace Insanity. And before anything else, before the stories, before the mindfulness, before we go anywhere deeper, I just want to set the tone. This is a space where you don't have to perform. I might be performing horribly, but the point is, you don't have to explain yourself, and you don't have to be better than you are right now. If you're here, you belong here, exactly as you are today. Psypris Asylum is a storytelling and mindfulness podcast created to support mental health awareness, comfort, and connection, especially through gaming and nerd culture. This show is not therapy, and it isn't a substitute for professional, medical, or psychological care. I don't offer diagnoses or treatment here, just presence, perspective, and a safe place to breathe for a moment. If anything in today's episode feels heavy, you're always welcome to pause, step away, or reach out to a licensed professional or trusted support. Taking care of yourself comes first. This podcast exists as a gentle starting point alongside advocacy efforts in the gaming space and as a reminder that you don't have to go through things alone. And with that said, you're welcome here exactly as you are. And I apologize, I did read that because that's my boilerplate. Just the disclaimer because I don't want anyone to misconstrue what this is. And I don't know better than you. I'm in it with you. And that's the fun. This is going to have a self-care and comforting vibe, hopefully. But it is also going to be a little chaotic. These scripted podcasts are going to be a little bit more streamlined, and I'm going to be careful what I say. Everything that I say is either going to be backed up by scientific, professional, medical, statistics or proofs, or I will tell you that it is my personal opinion. So I'm going to be, again, very careful with this series. So if you do see me reading off of a script, that is why. I don't want to spread any misinformation around, especially because it could be harmful to such a sensitive subject. That being said, again, this is not a clinical place where you have to sit and better yourself. That's not it at all. I'm just trying to kind of reach out where people are and create a community or that little space that communities can use this potentially just to spread the awareness of mental health and just well-being, because the gaming community is amazing, but it can also be toxic AF. And, you just have to kind of back up and realize the benefits of gaming, and then also like that, some of the negative stuff that can come with it too. So kind of equipping you for everything, not only the real world, but also the gaming community in itself. So I am also, if you are listening to this podcast, I have a YouTube channel. If you're seeing my face, you're on my YouTube channel. Congratulations, I guess, or sorry, I don't know. And I'm going to have more unscripted content once I get my act together, talking more about, gamer news or really any kind of nerd pop culture type stuff. I do have a lot of opinions. I like to share news and articles and conversation starters. And those are going to be a lot more chaotic because I don't have ADHD, but I certainly do have some characteristics of it. So I kind of jump all over the place. I'm going to try my hardest to remember to finish my sentences and make sure all of my thoughts have like nouns and verbs. Those are really important. So stick with me while I get the hang of this because I have been off of the bicycle for a while, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So usually the next segment would be like a news segment. Really right now, all I want to talk about is the new Fable coming out. Wow, that just kind of like blew my mind away. I have been trying to get this podcast out for 2 years, as sad as it is to say, a full year, because I remember this time last year wanting to get this out. But my mom died, so, life sucks sometimes. So I remember kind of being out of the loop on things, and then just the subreddit that I'm in was like, oh, hey, there's got a, this has a release date now, and it was going to be autumn of 2026. And I was like, I remember seeing, because it's funny, I'm in the same channels like on LinkedIn. So I saw that they were hiring for the Fable series. I probably mentioned that in that Fable episode I have. That was, I did way before they had a release date on anything or really any kind of information. There are some trailers out now that I can show in maybe a supplemental. By now, it's probably old news, so I'll probably wait until there's another information piece. But I'm bringing this up now because it did get pushed. So it got pushed to February. I can't say things. I can't say words. February 2027. So it sounds like a long time away. But, we're already in June, so that's going to be super exciting. I love the Fable series, and I have not found an action RPG game that really fits that mold of what it was. So I'm just so glad that it's coming back. I know they changed some things, like your choices don't change your physical, like good, evil. But I think I'm one of the few people who kind of didn't like that. I know it's really cool to glow when you are like have the magical one maxed up and you're all like glowing and stuff. You look like Rumi from Demon Hunter, but K-pop Demon Hunters. But I just didn't like that because also as you got like, so I used to play as the girl a lot just because I liked the outfits more. And so like when you get buff, it's accurate. It's more realistic that they become like bodybuilders, right? But what I didn't like is that they also grew. And like, I liked the idea. Now, granted, my person wasn't ever short because I don't think you can you toggle the width? I can't remember if you can toggle the height. I don't think you can, but I personally am 5'1". Yes, that is short. Little people are considered at 4'11", so I'm just at the cusp of an average size human, adult. And so I didn't like that suddenly my super person, just because she's all strong and powerful, she's now like 6 feet. Even more so, though, because she's taller than all of the male characters, too. And not that that doesn't happen. There are tall women out there. But it just, that you didn't start out that way. So I didn't really like that. And then, of course, I every time I'm like, I'm going to play evil this time. I can't. I always end up being neutral. I just cannot be evil. Not saying that I am a perfect angel. Just that, like, I feel too guilty making those decisions to make your character evil. So I have gotten like what is like fearmonger or something, but I never got all the way where like you start getting like the devil horns and like you actually look ugly. Just gonna say it. I never got that, so I am happy that that is not in this remake, or not remake. It's not a retelling. How do you say? It's kind of like a revamp, I guess. It's a continuation, but I don't know that it has like Teresa and all of those in it. It might. I might not have done my homework on that. I am sorry. Usually for this news thing, I'll probably read an article and have my ish together. But I have postponed making this episode so long, and I think it is so relatable that I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just not have it ready. It, progress over perfection. And then my current job always says good, better, best. So you find your definition of done for the good, and then what does it look like when you enhance it? Like what's the best outcome? Okay, well, how long will it take to get there? In the meantime, what's the better solution that we can work towards? That kind of thing, right? Which is, it's a kind of a cool thing to kind of live through. You know what? I'm just going to be honest. I was going to record this over the weekend. Today is Monday for me. And I was like, I'm going to gung-ho. And I just got scared. I got stage fright, which is the weirdest thing to have when you're just in a closet talking to a camera. But I think it's because I have been building this up for so long. I have been rewriting and rethinking what this is going to be and hoping that this is going to be something that can actually help people and not have just everyone laugh at me and tell me that it's horrible, which if it does, then okay, I'll give up. But it's just not in my nature to give up without trying. And so I was in this weird limbo where like I kept pushing, and that's why I'm like, I have, Esha has been a great accountability partner because I'm like, I need to get on this. Yeah, I just didn't. And I made excuses, and my support people are very supportive, so they kind of enable me to not push myself sometimes, so I didn't get yelled at to come in here. But there was an admin issue, and I am locked out of my work account, so I literally cannot work today. They are working on it, but there's a time zone issue, so the people who can fix it won't be online until about 4 p.m. my time. So today has been weird. I've been able to pseudo work, but then I was like, you know what? Let me just go upstairs and do this. So I did. So I didn't prep the parts that are supposed to be unscripted, such as this news segment. And that's how you got me rambling. But I kind of, I feel like I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it in because, that's the whole, like, that's a perfect example of this, that mindfulness isn't perfection. It's just sitting in your now and realizing, what you're feeling now and really just kind of checking in with yourself. And it's really fantastic when you can do that. But that's not what this segment is for. So I'm not going to talk about that. So I think I have chatted enough. I will make sure to bring some newsworthy news next time. And this one at least is, I guess, a little evergreen. So that's my worry is that I want people to be able to come back to this whenever. And if I put timely news stuff in this, that it's going to become outdated. So what do I do? Do I not do this segment? We'll see. We'll see. If anyone can comment, let me know if you think the news segment should just be unscripted, supplemental. Maybe that's what I'll do. All right. Well, anyway, let's continue on. So my notes actually have that this was a community check-in as well, which is something I wanted to say. That eventually I hope that we will build a community, and so there will be times and spaces for you guys to discuss things that I can bring on the podcast, comments if you leave them on YouTube, or I think you can some other podcasts I listen to say when you go to rate them in whatever Apple, Spotify, whatever, you can put your review, you can put as a comment, some people are doing. And then I think things are now adding like community news, like community sections where you can actually comment. However, I know mine is not popular enough to probably have earned that. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I want this to be a conversation. I don't want this to be a one way because, like I said, I don't have everything figured out. So I want to hear from you guys, suggestions. Especially, I had a great conversation with a coworker about some video games that actually fit this, like, perfectly, that I will kind of loop into some of our conversations here. So it's kind of like a round table. I also want to make a call out that this won't always be a lesson. The researched blogs that Esha helped me write were the initial narrative, the crux. If you've ever followed this is like the fourth rendition of this podcast as I try to find what my niche is. I like to have that structure built first, that foundation, before we build on it, because then it can help with exploration to see what worked and what doesn't. So I have 12 episodes pre-written, or at least sections of them pre-written, with like more so kind of straightforward lessons. I say the word lesson just because you'll probably learn something from it, but not a lesson as in like this is not, again, it's not a self-help course or anything like that. But really, that's not what I want this to be fully. Obviously, if people are interested in it, I do have a certification in mindfulness cognitive therapy. I'm a practitioner, certified practitioner, but I'm not a medical professional. So that's why I don't actually do any of that stuff. But I have taken the courses, so I can help as an entry level. I was kind of thinking of maybe doing that as a side thing, completely free. Again, just so you guys can get a taste for it. So if you like it, you can go to a therapist or some other counselor and say, hey, I read up of this, maybe this is something that could help me, that sort of thing. But I really kind of want to kind of get a little bit more essay style fun, where like we talk about games, about like stories and characters, and specifically like moments where things could have been different if they just like paused, like it didn't have to be that dramatic. Oh, what was it? I was watching something. Oh, Wicked. I was watching Wicked the other day, and I'm like, if they just sat and just kind of looked inward just a little bit, half of the stuff that went on in that 2-part movie. I know, obviously, it was a book and it was a Broadway play. I listened to the soundtrack prior when it was just on Broadway, but I never actually saw it, and then so I watched the movie. So I know some things were changed in it because Fel Harper read, that's my sister, that's her alias online, where mine is Psypris. She read the book, so she was able to tell me how things changed. But long and short of it, I feel like they were a little bit too rash in some decisions. Like if Elphaba had just taken a breath and had a little bit more emotional regulation. I understand things were really dramatic, but things went really, really fast. If you think about it as an actual somebody's life, like that just escalated through the roof. So that kind of thing, that's part of the pop culture. So it's not always going to be games. I'd like to talk about anime because my husband really wants to just like sit and chat anime. Again, it's not about fixing anything. It's just having those conversations of bringing the idea of mental health awareness to these stories and series that we love and adore. And again, not to be in like a nerdy way, just to have a conversation and kind of ironically like a practice of mindfulness, to sit there and be like, what were they feeling in this moment? What could have been different? What was realistic? Or sometimes just kind of having, practicing empathy of, oh, okay, I understand why this happened, because we can use that in our own real lives, obviously. So it's kind of the whole point. But yeah, so for today, we're not going to dive into anything complicated, no deep techniques or how-tos. It's just, the starter, right? All right, so now we are at the lesson of the day, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, to be honest. So this is a researched blog written by Esha Noman, and she is phenomenal and been so fantastic through this process. And so I don't really want to change what she wrote, but I also realize that blog posts aren't really written the way that speaking, scripts and stuff can flow. The best, at least. So for this one, I'm going to just read it, see how it goes. But I might end up in the future tweaking it just so that it is a little bit more of a full spoken verbal kind of communication rather than just reading a blog. You will see all of her unedited blogs on my website, which will be in the description below or the show notes, depending on if you listen to this as a podcast or if you're on YouTube. And so you can see that over there on my website. So either way, if you're interested in what she says, if you want to click any of the links, I have sources for everything that is kind of said in this. And of course, if you don't agree with something or you want more research on something, let me know. I will do a deeper dive, or maybe Esha will help me do a deeper dive, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Because again, I am not about spreading misinformation. I am just about advocating for mental health in the gaming community. I almost forgot. Before I jump into Esha's research blog, I did write out a few of my feelings. I do that a lot. I am better with written words. And you can actually read some of the same thoughts in my blog. But this was specifically for this. So this is not written anywhere else. And I'm going to try to perform it in a way that doesn't sound put on, but it's just some thoughts that I wanted to make sure that I expressed here, because I expressed it elsewhere, but you might not know it unless I say it here. Does that make sense? I don't know. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about why this space exists. Not in a big dramatic way, just the kind of thought that lingers in the background while you're doing something else. Because if I'm honest, this didn't start as a plan. It started as a feeling, a kind of exhaustion, not just physical, but emotional, the kind that comes from constantly being told you need to be better, calmer, healthier, more productive, more something. And I think a lot of us are tired of that. Not because we don't want to grow, but because we don't always get a place to just be. That's what this is. It's not a fix, not a lesson, not something you have to succeed at, just a space. There's also something I want to say clearly. I'm not here to replace the work that's already been done. There are people who have been advocating for mental health loudly, bravely, and consistently for years, and I don't want to step over that. I want to stand with it, build on it. Bring it into spaces where it maybe hasn't fully landed yet. Like gaming, like storytelling, like the places we go when we need comfort, but don't always know how to explain why. Because games matter. Stories matter. Not in a this will fix your life kind of way, but in a this helped me get through something kind of way. And sometimes that's enough. So if you're here wondering, is it okay that I need this? Is it okay that I cope this way? I think the answer is simpler than we make it. Yes, it's okay. I don't have everything figured out, not even close. But I've learned a few things through experiences, through reflections, through trial and error. And I want to share those things. If nothing else, I hope this space feels like somewhere you can come back to, not to change yourself, just to remember you don't have to go through things alone. Okay. I know it's cliche and cheesy, but I am that way. And you know what? I think more people need that in their lives. Again, this isn't like self-help book. Like, you didn't come here to be talked at and all that. This isn't that either. You don't have to listen to this and think you're going through something. You know, if your life is fantastic and perfect, A, I don't believe that, but B, that's cool too. You can always keep a refresher. It's like people who, walk every day or work out every day. Like, you don't do that until you're in shape. You are continually and continuously working on that. So if you've, already gone through your trials and tribulations and you're smooth sailing, great. But this is still something that is relevant to your life, to your friends' lives. So stick around, right? Yeah, this is the first episode. This is me explaining what this is. It doesn't sound this preachy all the time, I hope. Let's fix it if it does sound like that. All right. Welcome to the Asylum by Esha Noman. Welcome. You didn't wander in by accident. Hi, I'm really glad you're here. And before we do anything else, I want to say this clearly. You don't need to improve here. You don't need to be calmer, healthier, or healed. You don't need to explain yourself. If you found Psypris Asylum, you're already allowed to be here. This podcast exists because a lot of people are tired, not just physically, emotionally. Tired of being told they're too much. Tired of being told their comfort is a problem. Tired of being told that if they still need escape, rest, or play, something must be wrong with them. This is not that kind of space. This is a yellow safe space sign podcast. That means there's no fixing here. There is no teaching here. There is no try harder here. This podcast is not therapy. It is not a treatment plan. It is not here to diagnose you or optimize you. What it is here for is grounding. A place to slow your nervous system down. A place to hear language that doesn't judge you. A place to rest without being asked to earn it. Mental health research shows that a sense of safety and acceptance is foundational for emotional regulation, not something you get after you get better. American Psychological Association 2020. So episode 1 of this podcast isn't here to teach you anything. It's here to give you permission. Is this legit? Is it safe? This is usually the first question people have, and it's a fair one, especially if you've been hurt by wellness spaces before. So let's say this plainly. I am not a therapist. This podcast is not medical or psychological care, and it is not a replacement for professional help. That boundary matters. Mental health organizations are very clear that support spaces and clinical treatment serve different purposes, and both are valid when they stay honest about their role. World Health Organization 2014. If something in this podcast ever feels too heavy, you can pause, you can step away, you can reach out for help. That's not failure. That's self-respect. Is it okay that games help me cope? Yes. Full stop. Research shows that video games can act as emotional regulation tools, helping people manage stress, mood, and overwhelm, especially during hard or exhausting periods. Granick, Lobel, and Engels, 2014. Games can offer focus for when your mind won't slow down, structure when life feels chaotic, and comfort when silence feels unsafe. That doesn't mean games fix everything. It means they help, and helping is enough. Needing comfort does not make you weak. It makes you human. Am I broken for needing escapism? A lot of people ask this question quietly. They don't always use the word escapism. They just feel bad. They think, why do I need games? Why do I need stories? Why can't I just deal with life like everyone else? The word escapism usually sounds negative, like you're running away, like you're avoiding something you should face. But that's not the whole story. Psychology makes an important difference between avoiding everything and taking a break so you can keep going. Compas et al., 2017. Those are not the same thing. Sometimes stepping away is how people survive a hard moment. Sometimes your mind needs rest before it can handle more. Stories help people breathe. Games help people focus. Imagination helps people feel safe when real life feels too heavy. Researchers have known for a long time that play, stories, and fantasy can be healthy ways to cope, especially during stress, uncertainty, or emotional overload. Marr and Oatley, 2008. So no, you're not escaping because you don't care about your life. You're escaping because you care enough to protect yourself. And that doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. Gaming, nerd culture, and the messy reality. Let's not sugarcoat this. Gaming spaces and nerd culture can be incredibly healing. They can also be really hard. For a lot of people, these spaces are where they first felt seen, where liking weird things was normal, where imagination, passion, and hyper-focus weren't something to hide. But that's not the whole story. These spaces can also become toxic. Gatekeeping, harassment, pressure to prove you belong, burnout from always having to perform, compete, or defend your identity. Research has documented these issues clearly, including how online gaming communities can contribute to stress, exclusion, and emotional exhaustion, especially for marginalized players. Cowart and Quaint, 2020. So yes, games can be a comfort, and gaming spaces can still hurt. Both of those things can be true at the same time. What matters is what's changing. More people inside the gaming world are starting to say out loud that mental health matters, that burnout isn't weakness, that needing support isn't a personal failure. Developers, creators, players. There's a growing mental health advocacy movement within gaming itself, pushing back against old ideas that said, just toughen up, or it's not that serious. That shift matters. It means conversations about anxiety, depression, overwhelm, and care don't have to stay outside these spaces anymore. It means we're allowed to talk about harm and healing in the same breath. And it means this conversation about safety, coping, and permission absolutely belongs here. Why asylum? Because asylum doesn't have to mean a cage. It can mean refuge. Historically, asylum meant a place of protection, a place where people could rest without being punished. Modern mental health advocacy emphasizes reclaiming language that was used to shame and turning it into something compassionate and human. World Health Organization, 2022. This asylum is not about being broken. It's about belonging. A place to be strange. A place to be sensitive. A place to enjoy childish things without apology. Stay crazy. Creative, reassured, affirmative, zealous. You. Before we end episode 1, let me leave you with this. If you've ever felt embarrassed about what comforts you, if you've ever felt ashamed for how you cope, if you've ever wondered why rest feels harder than effort, you are not broken. Research is very clear. Shame grows in isolation and loosens in safe, accepting spaces. Brown, 2006. Neff, 2011. That's what this podcast is here to be. No fixing, no teaching, just grounding and permission. Welcome to Psypris Asylum. All right, now the exciting and slightly scary time. I am going to lead you in a guided mindfulness exercise. I'm kind of calling it our respawn point, but that might be too on the nose, so let me know. All right, so I usually do my own practice without kind of narrating this sort of thing for me. So I am going to be reading through something rather than working through this with you. Again, just to make sure that I don't kind of fall in my own distractions. It's kind of hard to keep in tune with yourself and also lead someone else through it. At least that's been my experience. Okay, so first, this isn't a test. You don't have to sit perfectly. You don't have to close your eyes. You can shift around. You can stretch. You can fidget a little, okay? I promise it's allowed. You don't have to sit with your, crisscross applesauce with the yoga? Yeah, it's yoga, So this is just kind of like a little, hey, you're going to save your progress and continue on, right? So, okay. Sit comfortably though, okay? You don't have to sit crisscross. You don't have to sit. You can lay down. You can stand. I don't know why you would want to, but I like to lay down, honestly, but sitting is fine too. Naturally, your arms are probably going to rest on your knees unless you're in a chair. Just kind of let it fall, right? You don't want to lose all of your sense of self in that, like, you become a rag doll and just drop to the floor. But you do want to be comfortable. So try to kind of, just sit as comfortable as you can. And we're going to take a second. All right. And I just want you to notice where you are. Okay. I told you to get into a comfortable position, right? So notice what that position is. Notice where your hands have fallen. Notice how your shoulders are draped. Maybe loosen them if you're noticing that you're hiding tension there. All right, how about your jaw? Did you tense your jaw? Is it loose? You don't have to change anything. Just kind of, check your inventory, right? Check where you are. Check how you're seated. Notice any discomfort. Did you stub your toe? Did you bite your cheek? Are you hungry? All right, now I want you to bring attention to your breath. Don't deepen it. Don't force it. Just sit with whatever it's already doing. Feel how it goes in and out, in and out. That's it. I know it's easier said than done, because whenever someone tells me to think about how I'm breathing, suddenly I forget how to breathe. It's okay. If your mind starts wandering, it will. Mine just did. Just notice where it went. No judgment. Just recognition. Oh, we're thinking. We're thinking on our breath. And then gently come back to yourself. Like you're resetting your camera angle in a game, right? Kind of jut it off to the side. You can't see anything. You gotta reset that, right? Back to center. All right? It's not a punishment. It's just a small adjustment. You might start to notice sounds around you. A fan, a car. My dog just barked. I hope you didn't hear that from downstairs. Your own breathing. I do start to snore sometimes when I'm doing this. No joke. Just let those sounds be there. You don't have to block them out. They're just part of the environment. And again, you're really just focusing. Focus on your breath. I had to cut that out. My stomach just made a very loud noise. But you know what? We'll bring back to center. And we do always say you don't have to correct anything. But I personally love to do a little bit of tensing your muscles and letting it loose. That is just icing on the cake. Well, we can go through that. But for now, just giving you a taste of what mindfulness is, right? And if your thoughts start getting too loud, that's okay. You don't have to mute them. You can think about how you have that homework assignment due or a meeting coming up. Just let them play in the background and keep one small part of your attention right here, breathing in and out, in and out. If your body feels restless, you can shift a little. No one's grading you. If you lose track completely and suddenly realize you've been thinking for a while, that moment of realization, that's it. That's the practice. Not the breathing, not the silence, the moment of noticing. We'll sit here for a few more breaths. Nothing special, nothing to achieve. We're just being here. And when you're ready, we can move on. There's no big ending, no dramatic finish. Just a little more aware than you were before. Maybe, or maybe not. And that's okay too. I personally do like to end on a very deep sigh. It feels like a little indulgence, in my opinion. So if you'd like to do that with me, I'm going to breathe in, hold, and let out with an audible sigh. Today's story was specifically written for this episode by Alex Simpson. New Perspectives. After writing for what felt like an eternity, Gunnar could feel himself growing wearier and wearier by the minute. The only thing keeping his eyes open and preventing him from collapsing from his steed Samson to the sodden ground below was the biting wind and rain pelting him in the face. The land of Marikina was not for the faint-hearted. The woodland was thick, overgrown, dense, and wild, hiding all manner of threats and dangers, whereas the climate during the autumnal months was diabolical. Storms formed seemingly from nowhere and could rage for days, even weeks, as Gunnar was finding out. He'd been riding for the best part of a week now and was still several days from Brungahem. He'd an important bounty to collect and was determined to reach his destination before the next full moon. Unfortunately for him, the weather had other ideas. He could feel the lactic acid and exhaustion flooding his body, and as the next flash of lightning illuminated the night sky, he begrudgingly made the decision to rest at the next inn that he and Samson encountered. Roughly an hour had passed before Gunnar's nose picked up the faintest scent of wood smoke in the air. He lowered his hood, shielded his eyes from the rain, and in the distance, he could just about make out the silhouette of a tavern. Now virtually crippled with exhaustion, he knew he had no choice but to dry his clothes and rest, if only for a little while. "Come on, boy. Let's get you fed and watered," he said, as he led Samson from the muddy cart path towards the cavern's stables. With Samson fed, watered, and enjoying a well-deserved rest in the hay, Gunnar trudged through the muddy puddles to the tavern's entrance, making sure to wipe his boots thoroughly before entering. The second he opened the door, he was greeted by the scent of comforting game stew and freshly baked oat bread. This, coupled with the warmth of the fire and the gentle crackling of the logs, instantly soothed his soul. Even battle-hardened bounty hunters enjoyed the comforts of home. With each passing second, as the warmth enveloped his torso, he felt his fists unclench, his muscles untense, and the stress evaporate from his body. "Now there's a man in need of a hot meal and drink if I ever saw one. What'll it be?" asked the innkeep, a kind-looking man with ashen hair, a face craggier than the shores of Stormure, and a thick beard whiter than snow. "Mead, small," replied Gunnar sharply. "Short of funds?" asked the innkeep. "Don't you worry. One large horn of mead coming up. While I'm at it, I'll throw in a bowl of Franchilla's game stew,
and a few slices of oat bread. On the house. You look like you need it."
Gunnar was clearly taken aback by the man's generosity. Ordinarily, people spat at his feet or hid in fear at the mere sight of him. He wasn't sure how to react.
"Thanks,"
he grunted as he removed his hand from his sword.
"It's been a long ride."
"So I see," replied the innkeep as he looked the large man up and down.
"You'll no doubt be needing a room. Francella's prepped our best one and has drawn you a hot bath. Here's the key. Once you've ate and drank up, it's down the hall, first door on the right. Again, on the house." "Kind offer,"
said Gunnar.
"but I really need to be making tracks. I've a long ride left. No time." "Nonsense," said the innkeep. "You're exhausted, soaking wet, can barely stand, and look like you've not eaten in days. You venture out into that storm again, you'll not see the morning. Besides, that steed of yours is snoring away in the stables. Take a cruel man to wake a beast as content as he." "Again, kind offer, but I've no time for rest. I've got work to do." "Let me tell you about work," said the innkeep, this time with a sterner tone to his voice. "Must be, 6 harvests back now? One minute I was working the fields, sweat pouring from my brow. Next thing I know, I have a stabbing feeling in my chest. Felt like I'd been shot in the heart with 100 flaming arrows at once. I wake up in bed, weeks later. Lucky to be alive. You know what the healers say caused it? My constant working." "That's all well and good," scoffed Gunnar. "But I've money to earn. You see? That right there's the problem," said the innkeep. "People these days are so obsessed with chasing coin, they're forgetting to live. Next thing they know, they're half-crippled, mentally broken, have pushed away their nearest and dearest, and are too weak, tired, and fragile to do anything with the coin they've been hoarding all that time. I should know. I was just like it, and it nearly cost me my life. Now, down the hall, first door on the right, and I'll not take no for an answer." "Thank you," replied Gunnar, clearly touched by the man's kindness. He finished his mead, ate his meal, and retreated to his room to soak away the stresses of the last few days in a warm bath. By the time Gunnar awoke the next morning, the storm clouds had cleared, the sun was shining, and the birds were singing. He felt like a new man. The innkeep's words had clearly resonated with him. All of his stresses and worries were gone. For the first time he could remember, he felt alive. A short while later, he walked into the tavern and approached the innkeep. "Mead, large, please. Here's my payment, and I won't take no for an answer," he said as he handed him a shiny gold coin. "Thank you, sir. But hadn't ye best be on your way? Long journey, money to earn and all." "Gunnar," answered the bounty hunter, a suggestion of a smile painted across his lips. "Think I'll pay for another couple of nights if you've the room. More important things than work. Besides, it's only money."
All right. So I hope you enjoyed that story. Gunnar has been a really fun character to just kind of witness the exploration of. Alex has been absolutely tremendous. He had to write these side by side with Esha. They didn't have the actual, like Alex didn't have these blogs written at the time. He just had what I prompted Esha with. And I just was like, I had a few ideas, but I was like, you have artistic license. And so at first we were going to actually do from a real game series, and, choose different series for each story. But then, he brought up like, well, what if we just use the same character? And I was like, that's pretty interesting. And so, the world that he has built has just been fantastic. I love it. It gets silly sometimes, which you'll hear, but it's really good. Again, there's not really a lesson. Back in my OG podcast, I would read a fairy tale and then do a sort of reflection section of, what you can take from it, and also just my personal opinions. But I kind of want to just kind of go over the main, and I know I've rehashed it out. Sorry, my camera died. I just had a few thematic things that I wanted to touch on. I know that everything else was really redundant. So Rest does not mean failure. Slowing down is not losing progress. Comfort is not weakness. And you don't have to earn rest. Something that mindfulness really helps with is noticing when you're pushing yourself too hard, and also noticing when you need something. So when you're sitting there and feeling your body and the placement, sometimes, as I did in our example, I'll actually call to when you feel tension or, a stomach growls. When you're in pain or your body needs something, mindfulness helps you notice. There is an exercise, the heart-mind activation. I can't remember what the name of it is now, sorry. But I'll put it here. And it's 3 minutes, and it's designed to put yourself with yourself. But, it's a checklist almost, like what does your body need? What are you feeling in this moment? And it's not judgment. So if you are upset, notice that you're upset. Why are you upset? And then you can take that and work through it. Understand, are you upset because you're hangry? Maybe you need to eat something and you won't feel that bad. Are you upset because a friend hurt your feelings? Well, where did it come from? How can you express that to your friend to maybe reconcile and show that they did hurt you? And I want to leave you with some questions, just little thought pieces to kind of go out your day. First, always want to relate what we hear and listen to and play with our own lives. Does it feel familiar? Does anything resonate with you? And then, when was the last time you allowed yourself to enjoy something without guilt? When did you last enjoy something without feeling like you needed to do a chore or work on something else instead, and you just sat and enjoyed? It could have been just a minute ago. Could have been listening to this podcast as your time to just sit and enjoy. Just curious. And I also just want to leave you with one last reflection, kind of closing line, sort of skill point. I don't know. I'm getting really bad at these analogies. If anything from this episode stirred anything up for you, that's okay. Okay, you do not need to solve it today. The important thing is to just notice it, right? That's all we're doing. Thank you for being here. Seriously. And I know I kind of rambled on this one. So whether you stayed the whole time or you just needed a few minutes of quiet, I'm really glad you stopped by. And this space will always be here when you need it. And I am going to try really hard to get all of these scripted episodes out within a timely manner. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, and whatever you are struggling with today will pass. Until next time, stay crazy.
Stay crazy, stay crazy, stay crazy, stay crazy.